The Octa Automatique is a great way to get into the world of Journe because it's a long-running, iconic model, part of the core of the Octa Automatic line. This specific model with rose gold movement was made from 2004 until its discontinuation in 2015, so it's been out of production for a while, but it's one of the emblematic brands often associated with FP Journe. It's why Journe, for example, reissued the Octa Automatique back in 2021 as a limited homage run. This is a well-regarded model from a brand that's really a great way to get into independence because there's already a developed following and a permanent market for these watches. So when you're buying a Journe, you're buying something that is, yes, independent, rare, and special from a trend-setting watchmaker, but also a fairly mature project as a business. You're not buying into a science project or a startup. Now, 40 millimeters in platinum, you can see this one has a classic rose gold dial for a nice warm contrast. 10.2 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 48 millimeters, with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now, early on, this watch would have been made in either 40 or 38 millimeters. This one's got a little bit more of a full wrist presence, as you can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. The lugs are pretty short. They're actually quite tightly down to turn, almost 90 degrees from the horizontal of the case. You can see they're not out over the edge of my wrist, so if your wrist is 15 centimeters circumference or larger, you're going to find this wears really nicely. It's also relatively flat with a sloped and domed bezel, so being a dress watch, it will slide underneath the dress cuff. We have here medium rectangular scale and large rectangular scale alligator leather in matte black with a monotone stitch and then a folded edge. On the bottom, this is a Journe factory strap. You can see there's small round scale gator. The advantage of having gator on both sides instead of calf on the bottom is that it lasts a lot longer. It's a much more durable material. Costs a few $100s more, but a watch like this is worth it. You can also see the latest Journe straps feature pull tab spring bars. Just sink your finger in there with the nail. You pull that tab down, it's spring loaded. The strap pops right off, no need for a tool. We have a matching platinum FP Journe pin buckle. And what's fascinating to me is that this watch was sold in 2013, but it features a buckle and a case by the French Eleanor company that generally ceased making cases and clasps for Journe back in 2008. He bought the company, moved it to Geneva, same people, same tooling, same process, but now called Boîtier de Genève. But here you could see the diamond-shaped logo, the maker's mark of Eleanor, and then the French double eagle hallmark. So you have both the Swiss and the French hallmarks on this case, indicating that the case is probably considerably older than the watch and was likely built from new old stock. It's fascinating. Again, I rarely see a 2013 retailed watch that has the French double eagle and the Eleanor mark, and the fact that both the buckle and the case feature that mark is fascinating to me. Taking a look at the case band, very simple. The mid case, like the rest of the watch, is polished. It's defined by the flange of the case back and the flange of the bezel right here, which is dramatically domed. Journe is a historian of watchmaking, and he has great respect for history. So you can see that the crown is unsigned, as would have been the practice traditionally, with a double dimple design outboard and then a knurled circumference. A very design distinctive crown without actually being signed or branded. Now, taking a look at the dial, it is rose gold. It's been media blasted to give it this lovely warm matte finish. It looks upscale and refined, and it contrasts nicely with the polish of the case and the specular or mirror polish of the steel bezel that frames the brass inner dial. Now, the primary dial is rose gold, and you can see dial side assembly screws, a controversial early Journe styling innovation right from his first pocket watch in 1983 and his first wristwatch in 1991. This was his practice. Initially, there was some pushback from the industry, but today it's come to be regarded as a design icon and a design signature of Journe. It's also been universally copied, as have most of Journe's styling features. We have a power reserve scale of 120 hours. That is the chronometric power reserve, not the absolute power reserve. The absolute power reserve is 160, but it will keep best time as long as you keep it with 120 hours. If you fall below 120 hours or you elapse more than 120 hours, the watch won't keep time with the same degree of accuracy, so make sure you wind it before it gets down to 0. And unlike a lot of FP Journe watches that have chronomet in their name, this is a conventional power reserve, so it indicates 120 when it is fully wound. Now, the watch does have a quick set system for the date, so you can rapidly cycle the double-digit date. It has a nice, crisp, instantaneous jump, and then you can see that the two discs are actually flush to each other, which is a feather in the cap of anyone using this type of display, since a lot of times you have superimposed discs, a rather lazy and conventional solution that Journe would not conscience on one of his watches. Taking a look in profile, you can see that the case is drilled relatively far inboard, so the lugs are drilled close to the case to move the pivot centers of the strap inboard and fit better on a small wrist. And then in order to prevent any impediment to the range of motion of the strap, a curved spring bar is used. On the reverse side, we have a rose gold caliber 1303. So this is the unidirectional winding generation in rose gold. So rose gold came in 2004, replaced brass, and unidirectional winding replaced bidirectional around 2007. So we're charting the changes here. We've got a 22 karat gold rose lathe cut winding mass. We have 18 karat rose gold bridges and plates, and yes, the movement is made of solid gold. Again, 5 days of power reserve chronometric, almost 7 if you let it run to exhaustion. It has the high horology and chronometer adjustment standard of 5 positions, and a free sprung balance for shock resistance and precise adjustment, as well as a large high inertia balance wheel that beats at 3 hertz. And although it doesn't have a high beat rate, it makes up for that chronometrically with a very massive balance. You can see that there's beveling on the edge of the bridges, circular Côte de Genève across their surfacing, locating pegs to place the bridge on the base plate. You can see those have been polished on their peg heads. All screw heads have been mirror polished. We have a satinated stud holder. We have engine turning on the base plate, satination on the wheels themselves. And again, a nice, even circular Côte de Genève. 30 meters water resistance. Well, it's a sporty dress watch. I wouldn't describe it as a sports watch, but this is definitely a watch you can wear all the time, including casual attire. Reach out to me at Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com if you have any questions at all about this watch. Again, that is me, Tim, T. Mosso at thewatchbox.com.